This is Minda Wilson at Urgentcare. Very excited to talk to Michele Ahlman. She's the president, CEO, and company cheerleader for her company Clear Sounds. Welcome, Michele. Pleasure to meet you.
Same here. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm very, very excited to hear about how you started your business, bringing information into doctors' offices. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we are a family business. I would say my parents are serial entrepreneurs. So I've been raised in a world where they saw opportunity, saw a chance to make a difference for people, and they took it and built businesses on that, which is really awesome. I'm very lucky and blessed. So we started in the world of hearing loss and manufacturing product for people that have hearing loss. So my dad actually has severe hearing loss. He's a former major in the Army, Special Forces. Tank blew up underneath him. He lost his hearing. So we have a lot of inspiration in the impact that the things that we do have for people with hearing loss. And in doing this, so the manufacturing of assisted listening devices, we spent a lot of time with audiologists and hearing care professionals in their offices and working with them and bringing new products to market and complementing the hearing aids and different things like that. And one of the things we realized as we sat in those offices with them is that the waiting room is really an opportunity to educate, to prepare, to entertain, and to motivate and inspire people to take positive steps forward in their hearing care journeys. So we saw this space and we thought, really, this is like the window to the soul of a clinic, and is a forgotten area where people are often found sitting and reading through an old Red Book magazine or watching Food Network on a TV that might be in the waiting room. What a missed opportunity to educate. And so what we did is that we deployed a new company. We started a new company called ClearDigital Media, and we deployed a system called Hearing News Network. And this is a digital signage educational system that is in the waiting room of hearing aid, audiology, and ENT, and now dental clinics, that educates, entertains, inspires, and motivates people to move forward in their journey of hearing healthcare. In doing that, we also learned that the relationship between physicians and hearing care professionals is really important, because oftentimes as individuals, we turn to our physician for advice on everything. And hearing care is one of those things that kind of slips through the crack. And it's not something that people discuss regularly. We talk often about our eyesight, we talk about our physical health, we talk about our heart, we talk about all those things. And there was a disconnect in the understanding of the comorbidities between other things that are happening to us in hearing loss: diabetes, heart disease, a variety of different things. Ototoxicity can often be indicators of hearing loss, or hearing loss can result from things that happen. So this relationship is super critical. So we started working with physicians and developing programs to help in this process of their understanding the comorbidities and the importance of hearing care, and then working in conjunction with the hearing care professionals in their area. So that led us to develop a program that brought that information to screens in physicians' offices that utilizes email in educating physicians about hearing care and working in partnership with their local audiologists.
I just want to make sure that I bring out this point, because to me it's really important that you create a circle of care. You have all the important people involved in the care, and then people have the opportunity to communicate and relate and build relationships with all the people in their circle of care. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a good point. One of the things that we've just started doing, it's called MD Emails. So we work with audiologists and hearing care professionals to reach out to the physicians community to educate and to create a partnership and to build a relationship with each other, so that that patient is getting that full circle of care and understanding that hearing care is an important part of overall healthcare. Hearing care is healthcare, and oftentimes our perceptions of it, both as patients and even physicians, is that it doesn't fall within that realm, when truly complete healthcare does include hearing care. So it's bridging that chasm, bridging that gap in perception that we're finding has been really powerful and very successful.
Right, because one of the things that people think, they think of hearing problems as being in a box, and they don't think of hearing problems as being related to other health issues that they might have. And that's something that through this education, you can bring to people's attention. Like, as you pointed out about diabetes, like people with diabetes also have hearing issues.
Absolutely. And I think it's really interesting because it's one of those things where I'm just so innately curious about the psychology around it. And having been in the hearing care space for so long and trying to break the egg of crack through this psychology, this barrier that keeps people from understanding and connecting complete healthcare with hearing care. But you've got like almost a consumer electronics perception of hearing care in some cases where people aren't really seeing it as vital. And I think part of it is the way hearing disintegrates, I guess, over time. So oftentimes it's age related, it's noise exposure related, it's insidious. It kind of creeps up on us. It's like that old, the saying where you can put a frog in boiling water, it jumps out. But if you turn the heat up over time, it will just sit there. It's because it kind of creeps up on us. And often we miss the connections to our overall health related to our loss of hearing. And so it's breaking through that psychology that helps people understand why it's so important to address it. And then going deeper than that, and it's really incorporating the whole healthcare system into the idea that hearing care is critical. If you have diabetes, it's circulatory related. And so we start to lose our hearing at a more rapid pace based on circulatory issues. There's things related to loss of hearing and dementia and the connection that just like any muscle in the body, use it or lose it. The same applies with our brain. Our brain is stimulated through a variety of different things. Sound is one of the most important stimulants to our brain. If we stop stimulating and we struggle to hear, what ends up happening is that you take a step back from your world and your connectivity and you stop engaging with people. It's frustrating. They're frustrated. You're frustrated. It's exhausting. So when we start to do that, we stop flexing that brain muscle. We're not engaging in the same way. And it has impact.
And it's also socially isolating, I think. What happens is people don't have the ability to communicate anymore, and it affects their mental health as well as their physical health.
No question. And the truth is that when we are emotionally struggling, when we're mentally struggling, we're not engaging with people, it's a failure to thrive, and it affects our physical being. And these are just truths. So it's getting clear with that. It's also helping the industry break down its own self-created stigmas. To say I have hearing loss, what's the big deal? I mean, we don't live in a world that boxes us in stigmas as much anymore. We have an empathetic society, and it's to sit and say, well, I don't want anyone to know. We've got to break through that as well.
I know
there's no reason to do it.
I know when my mom had got older and she had to wear hearing aids, she was embarrassed. But the technology has changed significantly so that when you have a hearing aid, it's not this big thing that sits outside your ears anymore. So
no, absolutely not. Mm-hmm.
So the idea of what the visibility of your handicap is less apparent to the people around you. And also it's more improved so that the range of sound you can also hear is significantly changed as well.
Well, and that's true. And deeper than that, and I think this is really interesting because the technology exists. There's no doubt about it. The sound is definitely improved. Is it returning you to normal, natural hearing? No, of course not. It's like a prosthetic for your ear. It's never going to be the way it was. But here's the thing. If you don't do something about it when it first starts to happen, your brain adjusts. It's just like that little test that you take where you'd read something and half the letters are missing or discombobulated. As long as the first and last letter are the same, you can read, or in the right order, you can read it. Your brain is amazing. It does amazing things. But when you start to lose your hearing, you're filling the gaps with you're not, like I said, stimulating the brain appropriately. You adjust. So you start to adjust to what you can't hear. So then 7, 10 years down the line, you finally take steps to get that new technology. And that new technology does its best to replace the frequencies you're missing, but you haven't heard those for 10 years. So now everything sounds weird. And you go, I don't like this. And you take them out and you don't wear them. So we've got to go back. The reason why bringing the holistic healthcare approach into this by educating the physicians, by educating audiologists with tools to help prepare their patients and reach out to a younger demographic is so important, is because we've got to break through that psychology and say, what's to be embarrassed about? So you can't hear. I mean, so you're struggling a little bit. Big deal. There's technology out there that will help. And it's not a big deal to have these things on your ears because we walk around with Bluetooth headsets. No one says anything. There's no reason to feel embarrassed because it is about taking care of yourself.
Well, what do you feel the best solution is for taking the bull by the horns and sort of bringing acceptance to hearing loss?
Well, I think it starts with opening up the discussion and, the industry as a whole saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to create our own stigmas, by encouraging people to put invisible in the ear, in the canal hearing aids and saying, hey, that'll make it so no one knows. I mean, I think you're just creating a stigma. So we need to look at a patient and say, what's best for you? Doesn't matter how big or small it is. What's best for you? Second is, if I were an audiologist, if I had a practice, I would start to unbundle my fees. I would start to break it down, create a la carte menus of things, get transparent about the technology and the cost of the technology, and start to offer a variety of different services as individual services. I'd take a look at auditory therapy as part of my program because auditory therapy is a complement to the fitting of a hearing aid. And sometimes auditory therapy can be the solution. Auditory therapy is like brain training. It helps the brain focus in on listening and understanding even when you have hearing loss. It's proven to be quite effective. I would incorporate that. And I think it's bringing that, the physicians into the conversation. It's developing those relationships. And then as a hearing care professional, it's utilizing every single step of the process to educate and precondition my patient, which, the tools that we're creating, like our Hearing News Network, like our, we've now have smart fencing as a tool for an audiology practice or hearing care professional to reach out via social media and to have the conversation around hearing loss and hearing aids and their services where people are. It's reaching out to where people are and just starting this conversation and continuing it and allowing people to own that reality without feeling embarrassed.
But that also takes us back to cost, because if you can't afford it, then in a lot of people's lives, you just can't do it. So, and if there's no support on the insurance end for hearing, even the things you talked about, then how do you get people access if there's no financial support for that? And
well, I would equate it, and I'm not an insurance expert, but I would equate it kind of to dental care. I mean, I don't know of anyone who, besides a handful, that have rock star dental care. Dental treatment can be extremely expensive. And I think that dental care, again, is the same thing, vital to health. How do people overcome that barrier? Well, there's financing options. I know a lot of clinics use care credits or they use other financing options, things like that. I think it's getting in on correcting the issue early rather than waiting the 7 to 10 years people usually wait, so that your hearing loss is so profound that you're having to look at more expensive technology. It's utilizing like I said, auditory therapy. Auditory therapy is actually covered by Medicare. So that can often be a more cost-effective solution for some people. And that might be controversial in the industry. I don't, but what's best for the patient? So I think, in terms of what insurance companies are doing, that's where this debate with over-the-counter devices has come up, because that does make the solution affordable. Why does it make it more affordable? Because it eliminates the requirement for the professional to be involved. And so like I said, if I were an audiologist or a hearing care professional, what I would do is start to break apart and unbundle my services and start to provide a little more transparency in what I'm offering and how I'm offering it, And because those services are very important, an audiologist is a doctor of audiology, and they have expertise in the structure of the ear and can identify critical health-related issues that often stem from that. So their services are critically important and valuable. And I think a lot of patients, in fact, there was a survey recently done of people in their perceptions of value, and many people are saying, well, you know what, if I were to buy something over the counter or online, I would not spend that much. My value perceptions have gone down substantially because you're taking that professional out of the formula. So the value of that professional is there. It's really how do you help that patient afford the service that they need and the product they need. And I think that happens by unbundling. I think it happens by getting real clear about the conversation much earlier than later, and walking people through those affordable solutions long before it's become unaffordable to them.
But isn't there a danger in not going to an audiologist? Don't you run the risk of not getting that product frequency hearing fit if you just pick something out for yourself and losing that range that you may not be hearing but you should be hearing? I mean,
there's absolutely risk. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're self-service, you're self-service. So there's no doubt great value in going to a professional. That's why they're there. They will work with you. They will test you in different listening situations. They will help you understand what to expect. They will precondition you for that understanding, meaning that they will educate you as to what things you can do to help adapt to the change now that you're hearing different things. And again, I keep going back to this in the time, in the period, as hearing loss is happening, when people take steps to address it. Because once you've gotten to a point where you're literally hearing very little, and now you're hearing all this stuff, a great example is my father-in-law. I mean, literally had an intervention with the man, and we're in the industry. He's a retired firefighter. He was a carpenter, just noise exposure, completely destroyed his hearing. And when he was fit, and this is well into his late 60s, early 70s, he felt like he was going to lose his mind because he was hearing the refrigerator and hearing the computer fan and hearing these things that you and I might hear, and it's just part of our world, that he hadn't heard for a long time. So the earlier we get in on this game, the better it is for the patient. Does that make sense?
It does, but one of the things that concerns me after hearing this discussion is that I know a lot of young people, including my own kids, they listen to very loud music. They do it on a headset and in a device that goes into the ear canal when they listen to it, these earbuds and stuff. And I don't think I don't think their hearing is as good as it was when they were younger, and it's certainly not as good as mine. And I feel that they're at great risk by continuing this sort of way of listening to engaging in technology.
They absolutely are. There is no question about it. A couple things happen. You get hearing fatigue, and then you turn the volume up, and then you're just creating more damage. And there's so much information out there. I think the challenge is really, how do you deliver that information to primarily teenagers that don't quite understand? When you look back on life, you go, oh, darn it, I really wish I had not done that. And that remains a major challenge. How do you educate a teenager? We don't want to take the experience of feeling your music, and oftentimes that volume goes up because you're literally feeling the music. I have the same challenge with my own kids, and a lot of times what we do is we talk about taking, you got to rest your ears. We're not saying you can't experience your music. There are products out there. I mean, we happen to manufacture, for example, earbuds that have a patented reverse sound technology. So basically what that's doing, it's reducing the sound pressure that hits the eardrum. So when noise exposure causes hearing loss, what's happening is that the noise comes at a pressure. That sound comes with pressure. As it enters the ear, when the volume's higher, the pressure is greater. Have you ever stood next to a speaker, literally your hair moves? I mean, that's what's happening inside your head. Those hair cells are getting knocked over, broken, and they die. They don't regenerate. So once it happens, the damage is done. So it's really about preventing that from happening. You could use kind of an analogy like grass, right? If people walk on grass once, it may bend it a little bit, but it'll pop back up. If people are walking on grass over and over and over and over, it breaks and dies, and then you have a dirt trail and it never grows back. Similar, same thing. So it's really about giving it a break. And, part of our tools that we're offering in the physician's office and the audiology practices and, the content that we're creating in social media is about protect what you got. It doesn't come back. And it is an ongoing challenge. There's no doubt about it. We live in a very loud world.
And also at work. I mean, a lot of people in many businesses use headphones to talk on the phone. They're in call centers. They do that kind of business, and they also are sitting, engaged in conversation, and maybe they need something that could be a valuable tool for them, so that they don't have their hearing impacted when they're on the phone all day.
Oh, absolutely. I would say, and again, my husband comes from a firefighting family. He's a firefighter. That's probably, any job like that. You have immense noise exposure. Look at our military. These kids coming back. I mean, they're exposed to ridiculous noise. And hearing protection is a solution for sure. There's the reality that sometimes it's not worn, and it doesn't take much. It takes one blast, and you can create a substantial amount of damage. Tinnitus is another issue. When you have a sudden sound blast, it can create a situation where tinnitus happens. There's also health-related issues that create tinnitus. Tinnitus is a major problem in this country for people. And I don't know if you know what tinnitus is, ringing in the ears. It can make you crazy. And, it's another topic about protecting your hearing and wearing hearing protection in loud situations. And it's a tough one. I mean, you got a kid that goes into a concert like, I don't want to put ear plugs in my ears. It's helping them understand the long-term consequences of that. And, you do the best you can to make that education understandable, not scary, but real. But it is definitely something that there are tools out there. There's plenty of tools. It's really about helping people understand why they're so important.
Right. And back to the military, I just want to make this point is that, a lot of our young men and women are exposed to concussive blasts, or they're in an environment where the noise is deafening and it affects their hearing. And so these are young people that are hearing impaired, and we have to be supportive of those people. We have to be cognizant of what's going on in their lives, and we have to be willing to provide them the tools so that they can function outside the military. They can have a place in our society once they come home. So I know that's something that's been very important to you.
Oh yeah, I agree 100%. And again, there's the VA does offer hearing aids. They fit probably more. They're the largest distributor of hearing aids in the country, but we know that in itself has been a challenge in services provided. And then you've got young people. And one of the things that happens is that hearing loss falls to the bottom of the list of priorities when there's a whole bunch of stuff going on for somebody. And oftentimes because it doesn't feel like an imminent threatening condition, when in reality, it can be one of the most debilitating conditions that you have because it ties into all kinds of different things. Getting beyond this idea that there's something to be embarrassed about, that only old people have hearing loss, or that hearing loss is something that doesn't need to be addressed right away. You can deal with it. People can talk louder. You turn up the volume. That's got to stop. And I think that having that honest dialogue, and why we've gotten so involved in the education of the medical community, the education inside the audiology practices, because the family's sitting there as well, the spreading the word and education in social media and other areas, and developing this content that helps people really understand why it's important, and does so in a way that we're not trying to scare anybody or trying to push them into something they're uncomfortable with. It's about understanding that this is complete healthcare, and that it is critically important and ties into way more things than they may realize. So that's really our mission, and hoping that we can make a dent there.
And I understand you've been going into schools and talking to kids and sort of bringing that mission home for younger people to create awareness.
Yeah, one of the things we've been working on is a program to educate teenagers, and I think it would be, I think to be able to incorporate a curriculum about hearing and hearing loss in whether it be a science program in high schools or where it becomes something that we create curiosity around. And I think with kids, a lot of times it's about developing that curiosity and their motivation to be interested in a topic. When we talk about protect your hearing and turn the volume down and everything, I think for a lot of kids, it's like a don't tell me what to do perception, where I think if we talk about the science of it and we can bring it into a curriculum in schools, I think it would be brilliant, because we engage the kids in understanding what is going on in their body and why does this matter. And they're better equipped to approach situations similar to making choices around drug use or alcohol use. One of the approaches I've always taken with my kids is educate. We educate, educate, educate. I believe in you to make good decisions. I can't wrap you in bubble wrap. I can't be in every place all the time. Let me give you all the facts. Let me give you all the information that's available to you so you can make a sound, educated decision when that situation arises. It's true with hearing loss. It's the same thing. So it's being able to incorporate a curriculum. We've worked on something. I've gone to a couple high schools and talked to kids about it. And trying to incorporate musicians and other people that they look up to who are saying, looking back, I'm suffering the consequences of not making the right decision, and hear what I have to say, that this is important. So we have been working on that. I think it would be great. We're looking for funding to try to create a curriculum component we could plug in, which I think would be super cool.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting is even now, if you look on The Voice or some of these musical shows that the kids watch, when 30 years ago, musicians never wore any protective devices in their ear, and now they're doing that. They wear something to protect their hearing when they're on stage, and I think just alerting people to that would provide certain value, because you want to see that if the people you look up to are protecting their hearing, maybe it's something you should consider protecting as well. So
absolutely. I think what's ironic too about it, and one of the things that resonates with kids is you love your music, and oftentimes when you talk to someone later in life who has hearing loss and we say, what do you miss the most? It's the music. It's being able to enjoy it. So the irony of it is, by not taking steps to protect now, you lose that later. And so it's having icons, having people that they look up to, having people that they think is cool besides mom and dad, that is saying, no, seriously, this is important. And it's okay. And when they're wearing them, it is great. It is great role modeling, because then it doesn't look weird. No one thinks twice about it, and they're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do that.
So Michele, if people want to learn more about the many programs you're involved in, hearing protection videos, hearing aid devices, or even building a curriculum for the schools, how is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
They can email me directly. I would love that. And that is micheleahlman@clearsounds, and it's plural, all one word, .com. That'd be an awesome way to reach out. They can also check out our websites at clearsounds.com is our assisted listening device website, and information on hearing protection. There's all kinds of great content there. They can also check out, if anyone's interested in understanding our patient engagement and education tools and our video content around that, they can go to cleardigitalmedia.net. That is our digital media content development company, and that we are working closely, like I said, with physicians, with audiologists and hearing care professionals, in educating and engaging their patients in understanding and being inspired to move forward in their hearing healthcare journey. Also, tons of great content on that site.
Michele, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. This is Minda Wilson with Urgentcare.